Hi, my name is Sierra Hogan, and this video will cover basic genetic concepts in farm animals. Genetics is a very important part of animal science because it affects things like an animal's size, health, growth rate, reproduction, and overall performance. Farmers and ranchers depend on genetics when raising livestock, even if they don't always realize it. Throughout this video, I will explain what DNA is, what genes and alleles are, and how dominant and recessive traits work. I will also go over simple inheritance patterns using Punnett squares and give examples of how genetics applies to animals like cattle, chickens, pigs, and sheep. By the end of this presentation, you should have a better understanding of how genetics helps improve the farm animals and support animal agriculture. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and it is found inside the nucleus of almost every cell in a farm animal's body. DNA is responsible for carrying all of the genetic information that makes the animal what it is. This information determines the animal's physical appearance, such as its size, coat color, and body structure, as well as how its organs and systems function on the inside. DNA also plays a key role in how an animal grows and develops over time. From the moment an animal is conceived, DNA provides instructions that guide how cells divide, how tissues form, and how different parts of the body develop. This is how a calf grows into an adult cow or a chick grows into a fully developed chicken, all because of the information stored in its DNA. The structure of DNA looks like a long, twisted ladder, which is commonly referred to as a double helix. This structure is made up of smaller building blocks known as nucleotides, and these nucleotides are arranged in a very specific order. The order of these nucleotides make a genetic code, which is what gives each animal its unique traits. Even animals that look very similar still have a small difference in their DNA. Those small differences are part of what makes each individual animal unique. You can think of DNA as an instruction manual or a blueprint for the entire animal. Just like a blueprint tells builders exactly how to construct a building, DNA tells the animals exactly how to build, grow, function, and maintain the body throughout its life. Without DNA, an animal would not have the information it needs to survive, grow, or reproduce, which shows just how important DNA is in every living organism. Genes are small sections or segments of DNA that code for individual characteristics or traits in an animal. Each gene has a specific function and gives instructions that tell an animal's body how to develop and express that certain trait. Some genes affect physical traits that can see easily, such as coat color, feather pattern, or body size, while other genes affect internal traits such as how efficiently an animal digests food or how strong its immune system is. For example, in dairy cattle, certain genes strongly influence how much milk a cow will produce each day and over her lifetime. These genes can also affect the fat and protein content of the milk, which is important for products like cheese and butter. In pigs, some genes play a major role in growth rate, feed efficiency, and how lean or muscular the animal becomes. This is why some pigs grow faster and develop more muscle compared to others, even when they are fed the same diet. In chickens, genes not only determine feather patterns but also influence egg production, egg size, and shell strength. Some hens are genetically programmed to lay more eggs than others. In sheep, genes can affect wool quality, thickness, length, and even how soft the wool is. These traits are very important in the wool and textile industries. Even farm animals have thousands of genes stored in its DNA. Together, all these genes create the animal's complete genetic makeup. Alleles are different versions of the same gene. While a gene controls a specific trait, the alleles determines which form of that trait will actually appear in the animal. This difference in alleles is what creates variation among animals of the same species, even when they're closely related. For example, in cattle, one allele may code for a black coat, while another allele may code for a red or brown coat. Even though these animals might be raised on the same farm and have the same basic genetics, their different alleles can cause them to look different. Each animal receives two alleles from every gene, one from the mother and one from the father. These two alleles work together to determine the trait that is expressed. Sometimes the alleles are the same and sometimes they are different. When they are different, one allele may be more dominant while the other is recessive, which will be discussed in the next slide. This variation created by different alleles is very important in animal agriculture because it allows farmers to select for specific traits and gradually improve their herds and flocks over time. Some alleles are considered dominant while others are considered recessive. A dominant allele only needs to be present in one copy for the trait to show. This means that if an animal receives just one dominant allele from either parent, the dominant trait will be visible in that animal. A recessive allele, on the other hand, must be inherited from both parents in order for the trait to appear. If only one recessive allele is present, that trait will be hidden by the dominant allele. When an animal has one dominant allele and one recessive allele, it is called heterozygous, and the dominant trait is what will be expressed. If the animal has two dominant alleles, it is called homozygous dominant, and it will very be clearly shown in the dominant trait. If the animal has two recessive alleles, it's called homozygous recessive, and it will express the recessive traits. These specific combinations help scientists and farmers understand and predict what characteristic an animal is more likely to have. A common real life example of this in livestock is found in cattle. The polled or hornless trait is dominant, while the horned trait is recessive. This means that a cow only needs one copy of the polled allele to be born without horns. If both parents carry the horned allele, then the calf may be born with horns. Farmers use this genetic knowledge when planning breeding decisions, especially if they want to reduce the number of horned animals in their herd for safety and management reasons. In simple Mendelian inheritance, a trait is controlled by one gene that has two different alleles. During reproduction, each parent contributes only one allele to the offspring. Which allele is passed on is completely random, which is why offspring from the same parents can still show different traits. A Punnett square is a simple tool that is used to show all the possible genetic combinations that could result from a specific cross. It visually displays how the alleles from the mother and the father can combine in four different ways. When both parents are heterozygous, meaning each carry one dominant allele and one recessive allele, the Punnett square shows four possible boxes or outcomes. One box contains two dominant alleles, which is written as capital A and capital A. Two of the boxes contain one dominant allele and one recessive allele, which is written as uppercase A and lowercase a. And one box contains two recessive alleles, which is written as lowercase a and lowercase a. Even though there are four boxes on the Punnett square, only three different genetic combinations appear. This is why the percentages are shown as 25% homozygous dominant, 50% heterozygous, and 25% homozygous recessive. These percentages represent chances of each type of offspring being produced. Farmers and breeders often use this type of information when planning breeding programs. By understanding the predicted outcomes, they can make more informed decisions and increase the likelihood of producing animals with the traits they want, such as desirable coat color, better growth, or improved production. There are many clear examples of how genetics and inheritance patterns appear in farm animals, and these examples help make the science easier to understand. In cattle, one of the most common genetic traits is whether the animal will be polled or horned. This trait follows a dominant and recessive pattern, which allows farmers to predict whether calves are likely to be born with or without horns. Bull cattle are often preferred because they are safer and easier to handle. In chickens, genetics controls feather patterns, feather color, and even the size and color of the eggs they produce. Some chickens have barred feathers while others are solid in color. These genetic traits are important when raising specific breeds for egg production, meat production, or showing. Sheep also shows genetic variation, especially when it comes to wool. Genetics can affect wool color, texture, thickness, and length. Some sheep produce finer wool while others produce coarser wool, and these differences are important in the wool industry. In pigs, genetics influences growth rate, muscle development, and body composition. Some pigs grow faster and develop more muscle than others. Farmers use this information to select pigs that will be more efficient and produce higher quality meat. All these examples show how important genetics is in determining the traits of farm animals and how it is used in real life breeding decisions. Genetics plays a very important role in animal agriculture because it allows farmers to improve the overall quality and performance of their livestock. By understanding genetics, farmers can select animals that have stronger traits and use them for breeding. Over time, this results in animals that are more productive, more efficient, and better suited for their environment. One of the biggest benefits of genetics is increased production. For example, dairy farmers can choose cows with genetics that support higher milk production. Chicken farmers can select hens that are more likely to lay a large number of eggs. And livestock producers can choose animals that grow faster and produce better meat. Genetics also plays a role in animal health and disease resistance. Animals with strong genetics are often more resilient and better to fight off illness. This reduces the need for medical treatment and helps improve animal welfare. In addition, genetics can affect an animal's temperament. Animals that are calmer and easier to handle are safer for farmers and cause less stress in a farming environment. Genetics can also influence the quality of animal products such as meat tenderness, milk composition, and also wool quality. In conclusion, DNA is the blueprint that contains all the genetic information for every animal. Genes are specific sections of DNA that control individual traits, and alleles are the different versions of those genes that create variations among animals. Whether an allele is dominant or recessive helps determine which traits are actually expressed in an animal's appearance and performance. Simple inheritance patterns like the ones shown in the Punnett squares allow farmers and scientists to predict the traits of future offspring. This knowledge is extremely useful for selective breeding. Overall, genetics plays a major role in improving farm animals by helping farmers produce healthier, more productive, more efficient livestock for the future.